The Lantern of Open Hands. How giving, compassion, and understanding raise the world. In the high valleys of Aerolith, where silver rivers braided through emerald plains and magic lived not in spells alone, but in the way people treated one another, there was a road called the Quiet Way. It was said the Quiet Way listened as much as it carried travellers forward, and that those who walked it with clenched fists often found their feet heavy, while those who walked it with open hands moved more easily. Liora learned this before she understood why. She was a courier by trade, quick-footed and sharp-eyed, with a satchel that never seemed empty and a mind that rarely rested. Her work took her between villages and keeps, across marsh and stone, and into the company of people who wanted things, news, coins, favours, relief. She had learned to protect herself by giving little more than required. Not out of cruelty, she told herself, but practicality. On the morning the lantern appeared, Liora was travelling toward the city of Halloween, where the towers glimmered with warded light and the markets hummed with intention. A storm had passed in the night, leaving the air clean and the ground soft, and the Quiet Way breathed beneath her boots as she walked. She saw the old man by the roadside just after dawn. He sat on a stone, cloak patched, hands folded, eyes calm in a way that made time slow around him. Beside him rested a lantern of pale glass, unlit, etched with symbols that seemed to shift when not directly observed. "Spare a moment?" the old man asked, voice gentle. Liora hesitated. Moments were currency on the road, and she had learned how easily they were spent without return. Still, something in the man's presence felt unhurried. She nodded once. "I am the keeper," he said. "Not of the lantern alone, but of the choice it offers." Liora glanced at the glass, then back to him. "I don't have coin." "I don't ask for coin," he replied. "Only for what you already have." She waited, arms loose at her sides, mind alert. "This lantern," the keeper said, "glows when carried by one who gives, who meets fear with compassion, and who seeks to understand before judging. It dims when the opposite is chosen." Liora almost laughed. "That's a tall order for a piece of glass." "It is not the glass that is tall," the keeper said, smiling. "It is the habit." He offered the lantern to her. It was warm, though unlit. "I have a job," she said, and surprised herself by adding, "I don't linger." "Then take it on your way," he said. "Carry it until Halloween. If it remains dark, leave it at the city gate. If it lights, you will know why." Liora took the lantern before she could talk herself out of it. The keeper's eyes softened, as if a long breath had just ended. The road carried her on. At first, nothing happened. The lantern stayed pale and quiet as she passed hedgerows and stone markers, as she nodded to fellow travellers and kept her pace. She told herself this proved the keeper's tale was a trick of charm and timing. Near midday, she came upon a caravan halted at a shallow ravine. A wheel lay shattered, goods strewn, a young woman standing with hands on her head, panic flickering like a trapped bird. "Can you help?" the woman called, voice tight. Liora weighed the request. Time lost meant coin lost, and coin lost meant fewer choices later. She felt the familiar tightening in her chest, the calculation that had kept her safe. Then the lantern warmed in her grip, not bright, just warm, like a small fire waiting for breath. Liora exhaled. She set her satchel down and knelt by the wheel, examining the damage with practiced eyes. She spoke calmly, asking questions, listening more than directing. When the woman's voice steadied, when the caravan's guard stopped pacing and started helping, the lantern flickered, a soft glow blooming within the glass. They thanked her with bread and a copper token. She accepted the bread and left the token behind without comment. The glow steadied. By the time she resumed the quiet way, something had shifted inside her. Not triumph, something lighter, like space where tension used to be. The next test came sooner than she expected. A boy stood at a crossroads, eyes red, shoulders hunched beneath a pack too big for him. When he saw her, he stiffened, as if bracing for dismissal. "I'm lost," he said, barely above a whisper, "is less than #0. 2# is greater than." Liora felt the pull of impatience rise. She knew this road, knew the turns, knew how easily directions became obligations. She also noticed the lantern dim slightly, as if responding not to her action, but to her thought. She knelt to meet the boy's eyes. "Where are you trying to go?" As he spoke, Liora listened not for the fastest answer, but for the story beneath the words. She heard fear of punishment, shame of failure, a wish to be useful that had grown too heavy. Understanding softened her posture. She walked him to the right path, told him which landmarks to trust, and shared a trick for lightening a load by adjusting the straps. When she rose to leave, the lantern shone brighter than before, its symbols clear and steady. By dusk, the glow had become a companion. Not blinding, not demanding, simply present. Halloween's walls appeared at sunset, gold and shadow interlaced. The gatekeepers watched as Liora approached, lantern in hand, its light unmistakable. "Where did you get that?" one asked, or slipping through formality. "On the quiet way," Liora said truthfully. Inside the city, the glow drew attention, and with attention came challenge. A noble's envoy intercepted her near the market square, eyes sharp, smile practiced. "That lantern," he said, "it belongs in better hands." Liora felt old defences rise. She had been pressured before, cornered by authority dressed as entitlement. The lantern flickered, not dimming, not brightening waiting. "It belongs where it is useful," she said evenly. The envoy scoffed, stepping closer. "Name your price." Liora's jaw tightened. She sensed the familiar fear of loss, of standing alone curling at the edge of her thoughts. She remembered the warmth at the ravine, the boy's steadied breath, the space that had opened inside her when she chose differently. "I'm not selling," she said, and turned away. The lantern flared not in defiance, but in clarity. That night, Liora dreamed of the quiet way as a river, carrying boats of many shapes. Some fought the current, oars splintering, voices raised in complaint. Others rested their hands and let the water do its work, adjusting gently when needed. She woke before dawn with a decision already made. Instead of delivering her final message and leaving Halloween, Liora sought the places the light seemed to lean toward: the infirmary, where patience was scarce and pain loud, the docks where tempers frayed under scarcity, the alleys where misunderstanding hardened into habit. She did not fix everything. She listened. She gave where she could without draining herself. She asked questions that made room for dignity. Each time, the lantern responded, not as reward, but as resonance. Weeks passed. Word spread of a courier who carried a light that calmed rooms and softened standoffs. Some sought her for spectacle. She declined them gently. Others came ready to change, and she met them where they were. One evening, on the steps of Halloween's western gate, Liora saw the keeper again. He looked exactly as before, and also older, as if time had passed through him without clinging. "You've learned," he said. "I'm learning," she corrected, smiling. He nodded. "Then you're ready to set it down." Liora looked at the lantern. Brilliant now, steady as breath. She felt a flicker of reluctance and recognized it for what it was. "What happens when I do?" "It will wait," the keeper said, "for the next open hand." She placed the lantern on the stone beside him. The light did not go out. It remained patient. As she stepped away, Liora noticed something quietly astonishing. The warmth was still there inside her chest, in the ease of her stride, in the way the quiet way seemed to rise to meet her feet. She understood then that the lantern had never been the source. It had only reflected what was chosen again and again. Liora walked on, open-handed, and the world, responding in kind, walked with her.